Standard 9 says the student will identify key events relating to the consequences. Here I circled consequences, trying to give it emphasis. Consequences of the Civil War. We've already talked about causes. We went over those. We talked about the course, the leaders in the battles, and the consequences of the Civil War. 9E leads us into that consequence. Describe the significance of the Emancipation Proclamation. This is going to lead to the ending of slavery. It's not going to end slavery in the United States officially, but it's going to put us in the right direction. So here's the Emancipation Proclamation. That's the focus. Themes here are Emancipation Proclamation. The element is political freedom. Political interactions are freedom. As a theme, preservation of the Union, diplomacy, and unity. We see Abraham Lincoln as crafty again. So on January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery in the southern states of rebellion. Not in the whole United States, but just in the South. Let's read it real quick. This Emancipation Proclamation says, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. So all persons held as slaves within any state that is in rebellion against the United States shall then be free. Then at that moment, thenceforward, and forever be free. Alright, so we see here's a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation that Abraham Lincoln gave. One of the things we have to ask ourselves is why just in the South? Why did Lincoln just free the slaves in the South? Why didn't he free them in the North too? With this proclamation, it could have ended slavery right then. So the proclamation made by Abraham Lincoln to free the slaves in the South. Why just the South? Well, Lincoln didn't want the border states to get mad and join the Confederate States of America. Still early off in the war, January 1st, 1863, and we talked about these border states up here, like Missouri became, it had slaves in it, but it didn't secede from the Union. Kentucky, West Virginia, and Maryland, they were all slave states. Delaware, they were all slave states, but they did not join the South. They stayed in the Union and tried to remain neutral throughout the war as much as they could. But Abraham Lincoln knew that if he freed slaves in all the United States, he thought he may offend these border states. And if he did offend these border states, since they did have slaves, then they would leave the Union and secede one by one and join the Confederate States of America. And that wouldn't be good, since Washington, D.C. was in Maryland area there on the Potomac. So he didn't free all the slaves in all the United States as a diplomatic move, as a strategic move. Alright, so I would argue, since it was a strategic move, since he was very crafty with it, and since he was thinking about the border states and well aware of them withdrawing or seceding, that we could also argue with suspension habeas corpus, second inaugural address, and Gettysburg Address, that the Emancipation Proclamation shows that Abraham Lincoln, his efforts were to preserve and save the Union, the United States. So I would add that as an argument. So what's the impact of this Emancipation Proclamation? First, and very important, extremely important, is that it extends in 1863, January 1st, 1863, on moral grounds, the ending of slavery as part of the Northern War effort. So ending slavery became part of the Northern War effort, and for moral reasons that become part of the North winning the American Civil War. That is extremely important. That's what this Emancipation Proclamation does. And then that is going to lay a foundation for the 13th Amendment being passed after the war, which officially ends slavery. Don't get these mixed up now. The Emancipation Proclamation does not free slaves in all the United States. It does not. It's the 13th Amendment after the war. It's going to be part of the Reconstruction Amendments that will free the slaves. But the Emancipation Proclamation was a step in that direction. It lays its foundation, its bold move toward ending slavery, that's going to lead us to the 13th Amendment that officially ends slavery in all the United States. But it's very important to remember that the Emancipation Proclamation is going to extend on moral grounds ending slavery as part of the Northern War effort. And lastly, it puts the South's efforts against France and Great Britain to help them, puts that out of the way, because France and Great Britain had outlawed slavery, and so they favor the North more after the Emancipation Proclamation. And don't forget, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued after the Battle of Antietam. Okay, so that's the consequence of the Civil War, is that we're going to eventually end slavery, and the Emancipation Proclamation was a step in that direction. I hope this helps you ask questions in class. Watch the video over again. Good luck on the test.